He's a self-described Philadelphia sports fan from suburban Philly. Marc Farzetta, a sports talk host on the radio, now with his own digital show. A guy who recognizes the perils of all the hot takes we now see and hear from those in sports media.
Never more so has accuracy and true information not been the currency. The currency now is strictly attention.
Your attention, please. It's the host of The Farzy Show, Marc Farzetta, talking Philly sports fans, the Eagles, Sixers, and more on Fresh 24. Marc Farzetta, the host of The Farzy Show. You've been doing that a little over 4 years from now. Time flies. It's amazing. You've been a host on both WIP Sports Radio and 97.5 The Fanatic in Philly. You've been a host and a producer on NBC Sports Philadelphia. You are the PA voice of the Wings, the indoor lacrosse team in Philly. And certainly your most impressive accomplishment to date, I think, is the fact that, and everyone, please permit me this one indiscretion, you are a graduate of that great institution on North Broad Street. Marc Farzetta, welcome to Fresh 24.
Fight for the cherry and the white, my friend. What's going on
That's
there?
right.
Mark,
That's
Mark,
right.
you know I grew up in this area. I remember meeting you. We've talked about this before. When I was a freshman at Temple University, you came and spoke to the class. It was amazing. Still hearing you say my voice say my name is just such a thrill for me, man. Despite our friendship, it's still a thrill for me.
You know what? You're way too kind. We also actually share our first name spelled M-A-R-C, and I have to tell you that it's spelled incorrectly a lot, including, I got a lot of mileage out of this story. December 1968, it was spelled wrong on my bar mitzvah cake, Mark.
I thought it was the most common for the Jewish people and the Italians to go with the C and to go with the to go with the C in both cultures. I'm surprised the bar mitzvah cake would mess that up.
Do you find? Yeah, right. Do you find that you're correcting people a lot?
Oh, all the time. And then I drop this little nugget of information with which people enjoy. My father's Italian American. He actually was inspired. I'm not named after, but he always says my name was inspired by Marc Ivoroni coming to the 76ers because he came in August of 82. I was born in September of 82. So my dad just liked that there was another Italian playing basketball for the Sixers. But I drop on him. There's no K. I believe there's no K in the traditional Italian alphabet. So That's a little factoid. I once told the man, Mark Summers, that. And he got a kick out of that when I did a bit with him once. Yeah, he enjoyed that factoid.
Marc Ivoroni and that team. That was my first year covering the Sixers as the halftime guy, 82-83. But
Prism?
The old Prism TV, which we won't get into. It's much too long of a discussion. But listen, Mark with a C, we have a lot to discuss. You're a Philly guy, as you mentioned. Very interesting career path. We'll talk about that. And certainly to the envy of many, you make a living talking about sports, giving your opinion. We got to talk about the Birds as we record this. It's right after the Super Bowl, right before the parade. And, of course, I got to cry on your shoulder about my Sixers and their share of troubles. But first, let's talk about you because, Mark, it is all about you. And I went to your LinkedIn page, and the last line is my favorite. It says, talent assistant two. And this is quite a list here. Bob Costas, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Dan Patrick, Darren Pang, Eddie Olczyk, Mike Doc Emmerich, Pierre McGuire, and Lafitte Pinkai III. Obviously, very earlier in your career did all this happen. How'd you get the gig? And I want at least one story from one of those guys from being, I guess you were like a runner, right?
Yeah. I go for runner, go pick this guy up, go pick up the dry cleaning. Somebody's at the airport, go get him. I'm out here without a cup of coffee. Get me a cup of coffee. All that stuff when you're just starting out. A buddy of mine in college at Temple University. He had a cousin that worked for, I think it was the Golf Channel specifically. And I said, hey, if you guys ever, and he was a runner, he would do these things. He'd travel around in the summer to different golf events. And he said to me, yeah, we're looking for people sometimes if you're ever interested. I was like, hell yeah, I'm interested. So I gave him he had my number. He gave it to his cousin. Maybe 2 weeks later, I got a call to go to the Wells Fargo Center to do a Philadelphia Soul game that was on NBC. And to drop a couple more names, well, Pat Hayden was the main guy, former, I believe, Rams quarterback and Pro Bowler and Rhodes Scholar, Pat Hayden. And I got to drive him around and hang out with those guys for a while. And that was the first game I ever worked. And that was the start of it. I did a couple of Winter Classics where I was at Fenway Park. I'm a baseball first guy. So Fenway Park, Flyers and Bruins. That was my playground. Fenway Park was my playground for a week. That was incredible. Bob Costas and I still have a texting relationship. There's actually, I'm sorry, I meant to mention this to you. I do a show also with Greg Murphy of the Phillies and Wes Hall from formerly NBC Sports Washington. It's a nationally syndicated show called Greatest Sports Legends Then and Now. And we're actually just set to tape that show again coming up very soon. But that show airs nationally, like I said, syndicated, mostly regional sports networks. And Bob actually shot me a text the last time it was on its run. And he just said, hey, Mark, caught this show. It's fantastic. A lot of fun, a lot of history to it, comparing sports legends of the past to sports legends now. And I really appreciated that from coming from someone of Bob Costas, his stature. So yeah, it was a great run that I had with NBC. I was with them behind the scenes, I think a total of 13 years, because I did 2 years as a runner before I moved on to some other things with the production crew. But it was great. I'll say this. One story I have that just literally makes me look like an ass was Pat Hayden had a reputation with runners to be very strict. And picture, you're a kid, you're still in college and you're wondering what the world is and all that. And you get told, all right, now Pat Hayden, he can be really strict with runners. So really nail this. So I remember like the night before I did dry runs. I drove to like where the practice facility was for the Soul. I think it was in Aston, PA at the time. I drove to their hotel. I made sure I knew where everything was. And I did it. And Pat was out there. I could tell he was a no-nonsense guy. But at the end of the day, he slaps me on my back and says, Mark, great job today. It was a real pleasure. And he shakes my hand. And there was Marc Zumoff, there was a crisp $20 bill in his hand.
Ooh.
The man tipped me. You couldn't tell me nothing. This was amazing. So then the next day happens and we have the game and anything he needed, I was able to get, whether it was a football from the field, whether it was a jersey, whatever it was, I was able to corral for him. So I right away become like his favorite person. So fast forward to finally having to drive him to the airport after the game. And he slaps me on the back again and says, Mark, this was great. Thanks so much. Shakes my hand. Does not have a 20 for the record this time, but whatever. He goes, just pop the trunk and we'll get out. Now, it was a big, like, van, okay? I go, you got it. So I hit the button to unlock the van, the rear door, and he goes to open it, and I just hear ka-kunk, ka-kunk, and I'm like, I turn around. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I hit the button. Again. Ka-kunk, ka-kunk. It's not opening. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I hit the button again. Not opening. I get out of the car, curbside at the airport, go to the rear to try for myself. It does not open. Go back to the driver's side door. I had locked Pat Hayden, the director, and the sideline reporter, Marty Lewis, if I'm not mistaken. I had locked their luggage in the car with the keys in it right there at the airport. So I thought, oh, I'm dead. This great friendship I thought I was building with Pat Hayden, I'm dead. It's over. And fortunately, I think it was Marty Lewis that noticed it. The button I was hitting was for the glass in the top of the rear door of the van. So they open the glass and then start pulling their luggage out, thank God. But now the only way I can get back in the van is to crawl through the rear glass, the rear window. So Pat Hayden's standing there as I climb my fat ass back into the van. And I look at him he is shooting daggers through his eyes at me. And I was like, well, never work for that guy again. It was a good run. And I get in the van and I drive away. And I was like, well, they'll certainly never call me again, because you hear all the horror stories in college about that one time he messed up. And 12 years later, I am finishing my run with NBC behind the scenes, standing on the field in Minnesota where the Eagles are hoisting the Lombardi Trophy for the first time. So I guess Pat Hayden did not put in a bad word for me, and things ended up working out.
Right.
Hey, it's Marc Zumoff. Join me and Philly sports favorite Seth Joyner, Mike Quick, MMA champ Eddie Alvarez, Joe Conklin, Dee Lynam, Matt Cord, Ricky Bowe, and the Cuz, Anthony Gargano. What a lineup. We want you to join us on the Bet Parks team. Bet Parks is the official winning partner of the Philadelphia 76ers and the only casino and sports book that yours truly, Marc Zumoff, recommends and uses. Whether your team scores or not, there's always another way to win on the Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook app. Bet Parks has your seat with a live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games. Right on your phone and wherever you are, the tailgate, the stadium, on your couch. Double down on fourth down. Make downtime fun time. Play live dealer blackjack, craps, roulette, and more while watching the game. Bet on all your favorite sports. Bet the Birds, pro football, and college football. Download the Bet Parks app right now and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. Play hundreds of exciting online slots. New users download the Bet Parks online casino app and sportsbook and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for details. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Bet Parks.
You're a Philly guy through and through. We've mentioned that. Where'd you grow up, and did you play sports as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I originally from Ambler. We moved out of Ambler probably when I was about 4. We spent a little bit of time in Rochester, New York, a little bit of time in Baltimore, where my mom's from, and then we were back in the Philly area when I was 10. So there's about a 6-year stretch where I wasn't in the area, but played baseball growing up, played basketball growing up, played a lot of roller hockey at Burpee Park in Doylestown, right outside my grade school, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Played 1 year of football, 1 year organized football, freshman football at Archbishop Wood. And I loved playing sports. I was the type of kid that much rather go out and play sports than sit and watch it. I like to always say that my mom taught me how to be a fan. My dad taught me the games, like actually playing the games and participating in sports and all that stuff. My mom is a diehard Orioles fan. Her father was a usher for the Baltimore Orioles Memorial Stadium in Camden Yards for 25 years. And my dad just grew up going to Connie Mack Stadium in Philly, would tell me the stories about the bed sheets over the front porches that just said tickets on them. And he and like my Uncle George and his cousins, they would go and, buy their tickets and then go to Connie Mack, Franklin Field.
And then they would watch your car your car for a quarter.
Okay. My dad would tell me $1. He said, we'll watch your car for $1. But if you didn't pay it, something would happen to your car.
Right.
Something was guaranteed. Yeah, so let me watch your car for a quarter. But yeah, I grew up with those kind of stories. And yeah, I loved when I got probably mid-teens is when I really started watching the games more as opposed to just playing. Like my friends and I would get together to watch games. And then we would, next thing you know, by halftime, we'd be, in the driveway playing. And we would go back and watch the highlights to see how the game ended a lot of times. But we enjoyed participating and playing more so than we did sitting and watching. But probably mid-teens is when I would really lock in. That was around the time Allen Iverson was really coming into his own. I can still remember moving back to this area, actually. I was sitting in the house my parents were about to buy. And the Eagles game was on. And this is so great because this just happened. I remember watching Randall Cunningham and thinking, wow, this guy's pretty awesome. This is pretty great. This guy's really good. And then he got hurt. And this is the game, again, so perfect to the time. Eric Allen gets the pick 6 at the Meadowlands. runs it all the way back. And I'm watching this game really knowing nothing about football as a 10 or 11-year-old. And he runs it to the house and gives the ball to Randall Cunningham. Like I remember that vividly. And that really got me into watching football after that. I loved it. The Phillies teams, of course, 93. I was a kid, and my favorite player was Pete Incaviglia. It's still to this day one of the few jerseys I own is a Pete Incaviglia jersey. It was just that was the era that I really was coming into my own as a sports fan and not just a wannabe athlete. And it was all in Doylestown and going back to visit family in Ambler, just 25 minutes away. It was all that we would talk about. We would talk about the games. We'd talk about playing the games and the thrill that it was to be a Philadelphia sports fan. As my brother likes to say, at that time, the thrill of being a sports fan followed quickly by horrible disappointments.
Listen, clearly you got bit by the broadcasting bug, and it's the next best thing other than playing or coaching is being able to comment on it or do play-by-play like I did. You work for both major Philadelphia sports radio stations, and I'm going to guess that it's a bit of a tightrope walk. It's fun to do, of course, but there's egos, there's ratings pressure, there's all of that. Take me on the inside. What is it like to be a sports talk radio host?
It's a lot like being Philadelphia's therapists. Somebody described it to me. They asked me that question once. And I said, I think that pretty much nails it. And yeah, you're especially like you grew up here. You grew up being a fan of these teams and all that. You identify so well with the fan base because you're still deep down. I don't know a lot of people that really got rid of it entirely. Like if you watch the Eagles win the Super Bowl and you don't feel anything, I think that's sociopath behavior as far as I'm concerned. Like you still feel something if you grew up here. So I love still interacting with the fans. That's why I love doing, the man on the street bits and having those kind of conversations with people. The egos is something I just never understood. That was never for me. I've always been a practitioner of it ain't about you, that type of thing. And never forget that we get to watch these games for free. We get to go to these games for free. Not only that, but people actually pay you to go watch games and break it down. And I'll give you a real quick story about what it's been like for me. And this just happened during the Super Bowl. Ray Didinger was a guest analyst with us, with me, Seth Joyner, and Derek Gunn. And at halftime, where the Eagles are up 24-0, Ray, who's been a Philly guy just like yourself, all this time, he looks at me and he just goes, and I've known Ray now almost 20 years, and he says to me, Mark, is this really happening? Are the Eagles really up 24-0? And I'm like, Ray, Ray Didinger. Yes, this is really, I can't believe it either. Because you just have that fatalist mentality because you went through 27 years of not winning anything. And you've seen horrible disappointments. But to have it in your blood, to love the sports of this city, to love the fan base of this city, to stick up for the fan base of this city when you feel like ownership or a front office might be trying to take advantage of this city's loyalty. That's where I feel the most responsible to the fan base, where I feel like they're getting taken advantage of. They're being wronged. And for a long time, you felt like that with the Eagles, that they weren't doing the right things, and then they finally got it right. You felt like that at times with the Sixers. The Flyers did the same thing over and over again, and unfortunately didn't produce any great results. You can say the same thing about the Phillies. But you really have to keep in mind that if you would tell the 10-year-old version of yourself that this is what you're doing, you're crushing it.
Yeah.
Like you're just loving it. And I always loved being on a microphone. I think most kids realize that at an early age, okay, hold on a second. I'm like the 5th best player on my baseball team, okay? And even that's being generous. I'm probably not going to be center field for the Phillies. I'm probably not going to play that. I stopped growing in 7th grade, and I kind of figured that's when I was done. I'm probably not going to be a power forward for the Sixers. Okay, that's not happening. I think we start to put it together as kids. So I thought, exactly as you just laid out, the next best thing, if I wasn't going to be in it, I wanted to be around it. And also I did, when I was at Temple, I remember doing my first sports broadcast at Temple. And I also remember with the late, great Rick Beardsley, through the old BTMM program there at Temple, I remember doing one straight news read that involved crime and everything else. And I just remember thinking, yeah, this ain't it. I don't want to do this.
Mhm.
I want to talk about sports. And I've done it ever since. And to be in that, like, I remember my first job on a microphone was at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, where I went to 5th through 8th grade. And I remember they let me call the bus. I got to fill in to call the bus. They have to announce the buses over the loudspeaker of the school. And I thought I did that, and I thought it was I thought it was so much fun. I don't know I literally was just calling numbers, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I was like, if I could ever combine these two things, that would be the best. And then shortly after, I remember listening to a tent show on WIP. And for those that don't remember, those that don't even know, the tent show was the pregame show to an Eagles game, and it was in the parking lot at the Vet at the time. And it sounded crazy. And I remember coming back from Mass with my family, and we would we'd go to Mass, and then we'd go to like Perkins or something for breakfast, And I remember on the ride, we'd be listening to WIP. And I just remember thinking, this is insane. And I always compare and I tell my mom this all the time. Again, she's from Baltimore. The Baltimore fans at the time, I think before the Ravens were in Baltimore, they had this like feeling about the Orioles that was kind of like, oh, you lost. It's okay. Let's have juice boxes and orange peels and talk about it. It's still fun to play. Meanwhile, Philly fans, as I was exposed to with this tent show on the radio, were just like, F Dallas. Dallas sucks. Somebody says Dallas is good. They suck. It was like this really intense in your face type of mentality that I just loved. Like I identified with that so much more than what my mom was coming from. So if I could ever combine the two of talking on a microphone, talking about sports, being amongst such passionate fans, then I want to do it. That's exactly what I want to do. And from that moment on, other than, maybe I'll be a cop, maybe I'll be a teacher, maybe, I'll do it just was always like, it would always come back to, no, I want to be with this fan base, and I want to be able to communicate and talk to them. And I want that to be my career. I want to get paid. I remember graduating from Temple and just thinking, I want to get paid to talk about sports all day. That's how I want to make my living. And with some great assistance of the wonderful digital world, that's exactly what I've been doing for the last damn near 20 years, Mark.
Yeah. You did a great job reinventing yourself, certainly after, the Fanatic let you go a little more than 4 years ago. I do want to talk a little bit more about sports media, and we certainly have to talk about the Super Bowl champion Eagles. And I got to touch base with my Sixers as much as it's paining me to do so. But first, it is now halftime, Marc Farzetta. And the first part of our halftime is the Garage Beer 6-pack of questions. It's brought to you by Garage Beer, which is beer-flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. I am going to give you a choice between two things. Just blurt out the answer. Are you ready?
Let fire away.
Cheesesteak or soft pretzel?
Cheesesteak. I want a meal, not a snack.
Yeah, right. Center City or South Jersey?
Center City all day. Oh, what am I going to cross a bridge? Come on now.
Gritty or Philly Fanatic?
Philly Fanatic. But I love Gritty. I still remember the stuffed Philly Fanatic in my crib, Marc Zumoff. Okay. The first thing I got my kids was stuffed Philly Fanatics, because that's exactly what I had. Philly Fanatic.
Meek Mill, Hall & Oates?
I got to go with the Johnson and Hardwick kids. Hall & Oates, man.
Okay. Dr. J or Allen Iverson throwback jersey?
Ooh.
You got to blurt out the answer, Mark. You're taking too long.
It's so difficult. Oh, my God. Blurting. Allen Iverson, that was my guy. Liberty
Bell or Rocky Steps?
I'm a history nerd, so I got to go with the Liberty Bell.
The 6-pack of questions brought to you by Garage Beer, beer-flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. Just for grins, I am going to go into my music library, give you a handful of artists. You tell me if you have them or not. Are you ready?
Fire away.
This is so old. The Kinks.
I've been exposed to them through the movie High Fidelity with John Cusack. So yes, definitely the Kinks.
Kendrick Lamar. Pearl Jam.
Definitely.
Charlie Parker.
No.
Jazz. The Beatles.
Oh, hell, absolutely. My dad exposed me to the Beatles. Mr. Strawman, my music teacher at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, there's another shout out for them. He exposed us to the Beatles. Absolutely the Beatles.
All right. I got to get something off my chest as we go back to social media and we go back to sports media in general. And again, we're recording this after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, before the parade. Rob Parker, I'm sure you know him. He's a sports media personality of note. He's been on Fox Sports Radio and on Fox TV. He is calling for Andy Reid to step down as the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is what bothers me about sports media. He's one of the 5 greatest coaches in NFL history over 26 years. Certainly, had KC won the Super Bowl, the first three-peat would have been theirs, and he would have been lionized, if not so already. Don't we have any perspective here anymore? This is what a guy has done over his career. Again, he's one of the greatest of all time. Doesn't he at least deserve a season or 2 before determining, like Bill Belichick, I guess, that the game has passed him by? It's these hot takes and the desire to shock in order to get clicks and notifications and all of that. Am I just a 69-year-old crying in his beer, or do we need a little bit more sanity, or is it never going to happen?
I think this has always been a thing with people. It's one of my favorite lines in the movie Gladiator. The mob is fickle, brother. And tabloids, whether they be in Great Britain, tabloids, whether they be in America, I don't think that it's ever. I think it's because we have so much access to different forms of media that everyone is really competing for your eyeballs. Like, it's not just radio and TV and newspapers anymore. It's radio, TV, newspapers, this website, that website, digital sports hosts, all that stuff. I mean, look what the media is now. So you're competing more so than ever for eyeballs and ears. Because of that competition now, never more so has accuracy and true information not been the currency. The currency now is strictly attention. Strictly attention. Whatever is the hottest take, whatever is the top shelf in adjectives to describe whatever it is, that's what people are going to be drawn to. And now it's more than it's ever been. I try to run my own show and run my own opinions by the idea that accuracy and realism is the currency, not just attention. And I hate that it has become all about the attention, where I'm going to say the hottest take, and that's going to get attention. Even if it's moronic, it's still going to get attention. And I like to say on my show that I hate rewarding stupidity with attention. So if it's really, even if it's something the nation is talking about, I won't break, because I'm not going to give them exactly what they want. When people will comment on a post that they don't like, you are losing that battle. You are rewarding the stupid take with your attention. And I do not do that. So nowadays, that's just out of the, it's evolved into what it is, which is something I don't appreciate. But when it comes to the overall conversation, I feel as if the realist take has become almost the hot take now, where you're so inundated and flooded with all these top shelf, whatever, all these headlines, that if you not necessarily just walk down the middle, because the fence is also a bad place to be, but if you just walk down the middle and just say, hold on a second, this opinion, that opinion, but what about this? And it's something that's more down the line. And I think Jalen Hurts is a perfect example of this, because there are people that say he sucks, people that say he needs to be benched. Andy Reid, he needs to step down. Like, hold on a second. You just laid out the argument perfectly that any rational, sane thinking human being would lay out. You're talking about one of the all-time winningest coaches. You're talking about a multi-Super Bowl champion. You're talking about a guy that's won over 100 games with 2 different teams. Nobody's ever done that. And you're talking about Jalen Hurts. Oh, it's all Saquon Barkley. Wasn't he in a Super Bowl 2 years ago without Saquon Barkley? Like, people strive for the attention and not the accuracy anymore. And that's what's really troublesome about where the business is. And that involves radio. That involves print. That involves TV. That involves digital. That involves everything. Again, because there's never been a greater competition for eyeballs than there is, and ears, than there is right now. So for me, I try to base everything on reality. And another example of that is I have been on the Jalen Hurts support train. Other than disagreeing with the philosophy of drafting a quarterback in the second round when you just signed your franchise guy, other than overall disagreeing with that philosophy, I've loved everything about Jalen Hurts. Personally, loved everything about Jalen Hurts as a football player, as a leader, his mindset, his mentality. I think the guy is a phenomenal role model. People will try to label me a hater, despite that's what I think, because they've heard me critique a few things that he's done. On the other side of that, I've fired Nick Sirianni, I don't know, at least a half a dozen times. Like, I just have not thought he's been the guy. But that has been how I really felt about the situation. The people that, like, I hate the argument that people jump to fire the head coach, because a lot of times it comes down to players not performing. Then there's other times when head coaches or managers need to figure out how to tap into what takes that team to the next level, and they don't know how to do it. A perfect example of that, the Phillies fired Joe Girardi. Next thing you know, they go to a World Series. So I almost feel like the realist take has become the hot take, because there's so many piping hot takes out there. The one that stands out to me now, the ones that stand out are the ones that make the most sense, the ones that are most real. Because those are the ones that are trying to hit you right between the eyes, not, blow your head off your shoulders with the hottest of takes.
I got to get your take on my Sixers, and I'm so bummed. Is it just injuries? Is it trying to incorporate a new guy who hasn't played that much in Paul George? What's going on, and where can I grab to have some sort of hope?
Hey, I'll float you some Wings tickets. It's not just. Here's where I'm at with the Sixers, because I love them. I know you have a much closer relationship than I do with them, but it's not. I wish I could say it was just this year. I want to believe, and maybe this will help you with some optimism. I want to believe that Joel Embiid, that they're just really kid gloving him this season because they want him to be ready for post All-Star break, and this is when they're going to really unleash the fury. I want to believe that. I want to believe that in the final 30 games of the season or what have you, they're going to dominate, and Paul George is going to be great, and Tyrese Maxey is going to be great, and this Quentin Grimes guy is going to be a nice glue piece and all that. But it's the fact that the injuries have affected everything else. It's the fact that Joel Embiid went and played in the Olympics despite not being anything close to 100%. And I give him a lot of credit for playing in the playoffs last year against the Knicks. And I still give him a lot of credit for that. But it's the idea that he was at 70, 75%, played in the playoffs and played as well as he did for the most part, then went and played in the Olympics, where I was trying to look at it from, again, an optimistic standpoint, where I said, oh, you know what? At least I know he's playing basketball. At least I know he's going to be amongst these greats, and maybe he'll pick up a thing or two and then be ready to rip come the start of the NBA season. Well, he wasn't ready to rip at the start of the NBA season. At the time that we talk, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid have played 13 games together, Mark. Like, this is awful. And all the while, the Sixers again reward Joel Embiid with a contract extension. Now, you could be the biggest Embiid fan in the world, but how does that make sense when you don't even know the guy's health status for this year? So I think the Sixers are in a really, really tough spot, because as much as I want to say that I believe and I'm betting on the idea that the 76ers are going to make some kind of great run in the second half of the season to, go to a conference finals or an NBA title or whatever. I'm rooting for it, but I ain't betting on it. And the Sixers, they rewarded Ben Simmons when he didn't improve with a max rookie contract extension. They rewarded Joel Embiid, even though he showed he couldn't stay healthy. And they rewarded Joel Embiid when he couldn't stay healthy. And I have probably more so than any fan base in the city, I got the softest spot for the Sixers, because during the Sam Hinkie era, the fan base didn't go away. They grew. They found something else to cheer for when it came to trusting what Sam Hinkie was doing. I didn't believe in an endless amount of time to turn it around. So that's where I differ from like a Hinkieite, for instance. But even through that, the Sixers fire him, abandon that, bring in the Colangelos. We go through that mess. You see they make desperate attempts to save either Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris, and the wrong decision was made there. And you fast forward to where we are now, and it's just a series of horrific events after a fan base invested so much in what is termed as the process. And it doesn't look like it's going to turn around. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better. I don't all of a sudden think magically that Joel Embiid is going to get a spring in his step or anything like that. So for me, unfortunately, I look forward to seeing what Tyrese Maxey can do here in his career in Philadelphia. I look forward to seeing what Jared McCain can develop into. Hopefully injuries is not a thing that plagues him in his career. That's where I'm at right now. I know the Sixers are going to squeeze and wring this rag out as much as possible when it comes to the talent of Joel Embiid. And that's ultimately what Daryl Morey has said, that they're going to live and die on Joel Embiid Hill. And I heard nationally the other day, I think it was Brian Windhorst used the term untradeable. I want to believe the Sixers are going to make it to a conference finals, an NBA finals. I want to believe that they're going to provide a championship in the Joel Embiid era. But I don't think any rational thinking human being is saying, oh, that's definitely going to happen. You just wait. And that's unfortunate. So if you're looking for optimism, it's all in Tyrese Maxey right now, and it's a lot in Jared McCain as well.
Mark, you're obviously a fan. You interact with fans all the time. After years of interacting with Philadelphia sports fans, and you can't use the word passion here. It's like a game. You can't use the word passion. In your opinion, why do Philadelphia sports fans care so much?
I think generationally speaking, and that might even be a cop-out, because like, where did they get it from? Where did like my father get it? Where did his uncles get it? His older cousins and all that? Where did my family get it before? I think a lot of it is we get overlooked a lot between New York, Boston, even though Boston and Philly, I think are brothers and they don't know it yet. Like, I think there's very similar mindset in both fan bases. But what I really love about, or what I think really comes about, is Philadelphia. When your sports teams win, it's unquestionable. You are the champions, and any opportunity we get to have our name first as Philadelphia, I think we really latch on to. So, we beat New York, we beat Boston, we beat whoever, Los Angeles, Chicago. Any opportunity we have to do that, to say we're the best, the Philadelphia Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, anytime we have an opportunity to do that, I think we latch on to that, and we love that. Oh, look, we're number one. And that is why, speaking of making a divide between media and fandom, that's why I never got upset with people when I talk to them, either in private conversations when I'm out and about, or if I'm if I was taking calls in sports radio. When people say we, sometimes people have a problem with that. Don't say we, you're not on the team. No. You're the Philadelphia part of the Philadelphia Eagles. Say we all the live long day. Like, you should say we. That's why I never had a problem with it. I think Philadelphia latches on to the idea that we could be number one, and we take to that in the idea that this is our opportunity to show we could be better than New York. We could be better than Boston. We could be better than anything in Jersey. We could be better than anything in Chicago, anything in Los Angeles. Like, I think that's something we take a lot of pride in. And yes, that is something that is absolutely handed down. Like, the idea that Philadelphia has such a problem with Dallas being America's team. Like, Philadelphia doesn't like it when people speak for us at all. Like, people speak for Philadelphia, we're like, get out of here. And now you're going to tell me that, hold on, I love America, and you're going to tell me that's my team in Dallas? Like, get the hell out of here. I think it's such a wonderful thing. And being able to travel in my years with Sunday Night Football and see how other fan bases do it when it comes to tailgates, when it comes to game day, how they handle game days and everything. Like, nothing compares to Philadelphia. Like, a city shoots up around Lincoln Financial Field that is like a boom town, and then all of a sudden there's nothing. Like, everyone after the game, then you tailgate a little bit more, then you get home. Other cities have a tailgate, don't get me wrong, but it ain't like Philly. And Philly is that next level of fandom where I think a lot of cities look at their teams as extensions of their family, where Philadelphia has something unique. They look at their teams as truly representatives of their city. That's why the lunch pail stuff, the Rocky mentality, the underdog, that's why Philadelphia, I think, identifies so well with their sports teams. You're not in my family. You might be somebody that I buy you a beer, but more so, above all else, you're a representative of my city. That's why I think also Philadelphia takes such a umbrage with, someone like me, for instance, that grew up in the suburbs. You will never hear me say, Mark, and I lived 20 years in Fairmount. I lived 20 years in Philadelphia, in the city. You'll never hear me say that I'm from Philly. I never say that. I say, if I'm traveling, I'll say Philly area. You know why? Because I know people that are from the city proper. if they're in the room, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, where are you from?" And I'll be like, "Doylestown." I'm like, "That ain't Philly." They're so parochial, and I love that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love that. So when I travel and I say I'm from the Philadelphia area, people are like, "Oh, where?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm from the suburbs." But I think they're so proud of their city. They want their sports teams to represent exactly who they are as a city. And that's why I make the differentiation between there are cities that look at their teams as if they're extensions of their family. There are cities that look at their teams just like that. They're just teams. That's all they are. But then there's cities like Philadelphia that look at their players as if they're representatives of them. And that's why you have that underdog mentality and that blue collar stuff. That's why that hits so well. That's why you have guys like Allen Iverson, who hit the floor so many different times in his career, really hit it off with the city. That's why you have guys like Chase Utley that just hit it off so well with the city. Brian Dawkins just hit it off so well with the city, because those types of players played the game with the same mindset and mentality that fans bring to the arena, the stadium, the ballpark every single time they go down there, and the same mentality that a lot of these people take to work every day as well. That's why I think Philadelphia has that type of relationship with their sports teams.
Marc Farzetta, I could listen to you all day long. You've done an amazing, I'm serious, you've done an amazing job. 4 years ago, the Fanatic let you go. You're in the middle of a pandemic, got to support a family. You figured out a way through the Farzy show and the other things you've cobbled together. You're an amazing talent. I know you're a Temple guy and you're a suburban Philly guy, but we really do appreciate what it is that you do. Don't forget, everyone, it's the Farzy show. It's excellent. Marc Farzetta, thank you so much for being with us on Fresh 24.
Can I acknowledge that the Farzy show is all your fault? Can we acknowledge that?
If you must, my friend. If you must.
So I get let go for the Fanatic. They grant me my free agency, as I like to say. And you call me, you angel of a human being, Marc Zumoff. You call me. Again, we have a relationship, you and I. And I'm in the car. I'm picking up my my kids, and my wife gets in the car. You call me. Your voice comes over the car speakers, And my wife, who's not from Philadelphia, she's from the Baltimore area as well. I say, "Hey, I'm in the car. Can I call you back?" And you're like, "Absolutely." And then we hang up, and my wife goes, "Wait, was that Marc Zumoff from the Sixers?" And I go, "Yeah, what?" She goes, "Okay, that's pretty cool." All right. Then I get home, we talk. My wife, Marc, my wife has never been impressed with anything in the sports world. She's blown away that Marc Zumoff called. So I get home, you and I talk, and you're like, "So what are you going to do?" And I say, "Well, I'm thinking about moving to Italy, buying a pizza shop, having the locals run it, and just raise the family out there." And you go, "Well, Marc, you still have an audience here. Why don't you just I'm not telling you what to do by any means, but you gave me great advice. You're like, we just try to do something in the digital world, whatever, and see what I'm like." Okay. So I start the Farzy show. Maybe 6 months, a year later, Marc Zumoff writes this great retirement letter about how he's going to move to Italy and learn the language and make pizza and learn an instrument. And I'm like, that bastard stole my idea. No, but I always say, and when you've come on my show and you've been kind enough to come on the Farzy show a couple of different times, I always say, "Oh, this is your fault." So I figured I might as well say this on Fresh 24 as well.
Well, you're kind to say that, but whatever it is that I had to suggest, you still had to pull it off, and you've done so mightily. And it's been great. So keep on doing what you're doing, my friend, and thank you again for being with us on Fresh 24.
My pleasure, brother.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Fresh 24. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our friends over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation. PHL Sports Nation. Enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience.